Sunday. Happy Sunday. That's kind of like
Hey,
elevator music, isn't it? I like it. Thanks,
I was
StreamYard.
grooving. I was grooving.
Yeah.
Is it just like random now? Like StreamYard just
I don't, yeah, that came out of the blue. It must just be an update or something. So
StreamYard's
there's no
latest.
choices. You don't get a choice. So, yeah. How are you, Lawrence? Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm gonna say, Happy New Year.
Happy New
It's
Year.
March. It's March. We
Now it's, yes.
remember our show in January.
Yes.
And now here we are in March. This is the legit New Year episode. So Happy New Year to
Happy
everybody.
New
Happy New Year,
Year.
Heidi. And I think all good New Years deserve a countdown.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's do
So
this.
I'll do the other way.
Yeah, this is the right way. That's the
Okay.
right way. Yeah. A one. Oh no, I'll do a three, a two, a one. Wind it up. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Woo.
Well, it's weird you say so we had such a weird day and like 20 minutes ago this crazy hail just came through. Like pellets and of course I'm out there with my phone and kids are like not everything's conspiratorial. I'm like this isn't right. It came in like weird little it's just been weird weather today. Weather.
Most things are.
Yeah, isn't
You know,
that
I was
crazy?
actually talking about that with Bandit, my darling Bandit, this
Uh-huh.
morning about the weather modifications and stuff, and it's funny because they'll concede to things like cloud seeding and you know changing weather acutely. But we never seem to have that done when we need like a good rainstorm. Like it's never like
Are they in the
you
Carolinas
never hear
now?
like call the cloud seed cavalry in while everything's
Yeah.
burning down in LA. That's just
Yeah.
funny that didn't happen. So
I know.
um
And currently the East Coast. Did you see that? Myrtle Beach?
no, what's going on?
It's on fire.
Kind of
Myrtle Beach.
blissfully away from the news all day. Is that
Oh,
today? Is that
yeah,
this week?
right
I I've
now.
I've
Yeah.
tuned out, I've been tuned out,
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, a lot of the Carolinas right now. Looks a
yeah,
little
rough
so
rough stuff. We gotta take
tough
care of our
stuff. I
people.
know. We had a little Debbie Downer moment before we came on. Now we're talking this. Yeah, there's some heavier things happening. Of
It's
course, more division too.
the heavy things, in the division are the chance that we all have to come closer to the truth. The truth, the embers of truth, the fires of truth are lit by the friction of chaos. Am I just making that up? But that sounded about right. It's
Yeah.
true though. I think that every day there's somebody. The flicker of consciousness is, you know, showing up. So
Yes. Absolutely. Well, who speaking of showing up? Hi, Roger Blair. Oh, he had what did he say here? Uh Terrible flooding here in eastern
oh
Kentucky two
man, I'm
weeks ago.
sorry.
Some lost all they had. How
So
come I didn't
Roger,
hear
you're in
that?
you're in Eastern
Oh,
Kentucky.
sorry,
Ay ay
Roger.
ay.
Jeez, yeah.
Sorry
So
about
we're
that.
there's it's and now whatever just kind of went through here, and we have another system coming through the middle of the night. It's going to come, just keep going, and yeah, it's pretty
Weather is
messy.
wild.
So weather's wild, and this
Yeah.
week with the spring vibes, with that New Year you're talking about at the learning center, you could feel it. Some of the kids were going out of their skin, like they just like, oh, spring's here, like let's go,
Spring
like more
fever.
energy than usual.
Spring fever is a thing, and so that's the thing is naturally take advantage of that energy. This is the true, beginning of the year. So
hmm The
let's go
energy
forth,
shifted. Yes.
march in like a
Yes.
lion.
And like a lion. Yes. And so we'll segue into that. I saw a Rainbow Chef's post.
Yeah,
You were talking about Eating Disorder Week, National Awareness for Eating
yeah.
Disorder Week. And I was like, maybe we should touch on that a little bit, especially
Touch
since I
on.
have a decade under my belt of a battle with bulimia. So I'm just going to say
Yeah,
that.
yeah. We could
Yeah.
we could touch on it. I'll just preface this by saying that I do not take eating disorder clients. I see it as a separate. Um, it's a separate problem that someone like myself, I do nutrition. I've certainly can be there as a supportive element of somebody
hmm
going through an eating disorder. But if there is a real problem, I always recommend someone that is their specialty. That being said, when you're in that world, though, you are kind of trained to identify it at least,
hmm
and It's really it's evolved a lot, and that's kinda what I wanna talk about today. I've got some stuff, um,
Yeah,
put up
and I'm
on the
glad you
screen.
said that but you don't, because it
Hey,
is a
Aaron.
separate entity. Hi, Aaron,
Yeah,
how are you?
very
It
much
is, like,
so.
very psychological, mental trauma we're dealing with. You're dealing with a lot of layers. You need a team, really. Mhm,
Absolutely, and in all areas of mental health, you'd say, it's a noisy space, there's a lot of things that have affected our mental health.
mhm,
There are a lot of professionals that have infiltrated mental health that have all kinds of wild opinions. And again, me not being an expert, I'm going to qualify this by saying I'm not necessarily out to debunk that, but there's certainly a lot of contrary information.
mhm.
There's a lot of I it goes to I think Heidi, you and I might have talked about where there was a gentleman who had a hidden camera and went in to visit these separate health professionals, and it was maybe like a dozen different, you know, professionals, psychiatrists and whatnot, and he received a different diagnosis from each, from
Oh,
each
yes, I
individual.
remember that
And
one. I totally
so I
remember
wanna
that one. That
touch
was
on that, I
good.
wanna use that as we segue into
Yeah,
this, is that there's a
please.
similar thing happening in the eating disorder world, in my opinion. And there's just a lot of, like, I think that there's a lot of fear-mongering,
Yeah.
but then there's also real stuff, and that's the problem, is you don't wanna throw out the baby with the bathwater. There's real problems. So
Yes.
eating disorders are no joke. So let's just pull out we can pull up that
Yes.
stat
Yes, I
sheet.
wanna say hi to Karen. Hi, Karen, good to
Hey,
see you.
Karen.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And I, also yes, and I wanna
Yeah.
talk about the if you can, the effects. Well, I wanna see what you have here, and then I have a
Sure. The
question.
first thing was
Mm,
just some stats, some
okay.
facts to kind of get the ball rolling, and
Okay.
things that maybe not everybody is aware of. Um,
Oh, yeah.
Eating disorder is one of the highest mortality rates among mental illnesses. There's a death
Oof.
occurring every 52 minutes in the U.S. So, Heidi, during our show, we're going to lose a person.
Oh my gosh,
You
over an
know,
eating disorder, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean,
Oh,
we do an hour show,
yeah.
so that's
That's awful.
put something human on that. That's a person. In
Mhm.
worldwide, there's 70 million estimated that are dealing with eating disorders. So this isn't just a problem
Oh my
in
gosh.
wealthy countries. Although I'd say it's more of a problem in wealthy countries, but not just in wealthy countries.
Mhm,
Binge eating disorder is the most common type.
mhm,
That's in the U.S., and it's almost 3% of adults. That's a lot of people.
mhm,
That's a lot of people.
mhm.
And it's not always thin, right? So this is actually something I think a lot of people may not realize. Less than 6% of people with eating disorders are underweight.
I know it's assumed
And
that
that's a
they're
crazy stat,
skeleton.
right? So
Mhm.
94% are of what normal weight, or even higher, right?
Mhm.
Men, right? 75% female, 25% are men. So I
Mm,
think males, in the case of a lot of health conditions, I think men's health is just a weird
mm.
thing. I mean, my patients when I worked at doctor's office were about 80% female. And men are a little more stubborn about seeking help and
Right?
all the things. So yeah, all size effective, average. Young kids, cases popping up in young kids as young as 9 or 10. That's
Jeez.
scary. That's in my
That's
world.
very
That's where it starts to
scary.
get in my world. My sweet spot for, kids I see, it's between 8 and 12. So we're seeing these cases right in that age range.
Hmm.
So you typically, teens was always the thing, Heidi, like
Uh-huh.
the
Uh-huh.
13, 14-year-old girl was the classic
Yeah.
example
Yeah.
of the eating disorder. And I'd like to
Yeah, yeah.
get your take on these. We'll finish up this list,
Yeah.
and there's some other stuff that we can get into on here, but eating disorders rack up 65 billion yearly in the
Wow.
US for treatment and lost work, plus billions more in broader impact. There's a drug overlap. So half of those with eating disorders are also misusing alcohol or drugs. So that's way more
Mm,
than average. These
mm,
things can go together quite often.
mhm.
Athletes. So this is a big
Oh,
one.
yeah, athletes with the disorders, yep.
And, sports, gymnastics, dance. You hear about a lot of this. It's the,
Ballerinas,
the
yeah.
ballerina with the cigarettes and coffee and
Oof. Yeah, I know a few
a
that
lot
were
of pressure
mhm.
on these female athletes. Dieting. Okay, so a teenager who's on a diet, um, 5 times more likely to develop an eating disorder, and what's defined as an extreme dieter,
Mhm.
18 times more.
Wow.
And that kind of goes into this next point of social media effect. Uh, Want to really spend time on this part. This is
Yeah.
really, to me, the modern, like,
Yeah.
this is the dragon we have to slay. Just 30 minutes a day online can begin to ramp up body image worries, especially for teens. And very few seek help. About 20 to 30% of people, which means 70 to 80% of people are not seeking treatment. And a lot of times it's shame. Sometimes it's lack of resources. Recovery does happen. So 50% of anorexia patients fully recover. So that's not a lost cause. So let's close
Yeah.
this. Let me,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a couple other slides, but let's just close this one.
Yeah, yeah. Hi,
And we'll,
Bauer.
we'll
Good to see you.
spend a little time on here.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yes, harder to deal with
Multifaceted issues, especially mental.
essential
Mental.
oils. Yeah,
Yeah, great.
awesome.
Lift the soul,
I would love to,
nutrition,
if you put in the
biofeedback.
chat of which ones that you like to use, that would be great. That'd be fun.
Yeah, which oils are you
Um,
digging? Yeah, it's
so with
mhm,
this, I want to
mhm,
get to get to the hottest spot on that list, in my opinion, social media, and how that impacts that other statistic of dieting. I
mhm,
mean, one of the biggest trends is look, food on social media is has always been a thing. I mean, from the early days of just taking a picture of what you ate to the TikTok,
uh-huh.
kind of reels where it's, you know, look, as a nutritionist, it's like I know I can sense when like a TikTok reel goes viral, because it's like, okay, why is everybody asking me about cottage cheese? you know, like suddenly, oh,
Yeah.
because there was like a cottage cheese viral video, and which is true. Like cottage cheese is like I mean, cottage cheese is roaring back. That was like a thing in like the late 70s and early
I
80s. Like our
know, right?
parents were like
Giant
cottage
likes
cheese,
it.
right? I really love
I
cottage
love
cheese.
it. Hi, Robin.
Um, hey
Hi,
Rob,
Rob.
and these are things though, like and the detoxing and the detox teas and the quick and the that, and it never
Quick.
goes away, and it's just taking on new shape. I was working at General Nutrition Center, GNC, in the 90s, and it would be back then it was like, Oprah, mentioned it, or later on it would be like Dr. Oz, right? Who's part of the administration. Now it's kind of
Yeah.
fun, but he would put a certain diet pill, and then everybody rushes to the store to get it. There's this viral effect, and it takes over people's thinking. And
It takes it over,
one
yeah.
of the stats
Hi,
that's
Tammy.
not on there
Uh-huh.
is the eating disorders in people our age. Like it's bleeding into 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, I've got clients that are same thing. It's like, have you heard about this thing? And it's like, where did you see that? I saw it on Instagram. I saw it on
TikTok.
TikTok.
Yes.
Cross the blood-brain barrier, cedarwood spruce, frankincense, sandalwood.
Ooh,
Shout
good
out, shout out
ones.
to nature.
Nature. Now I
Cool.
use Genius Insight Healing apps. Nice. One of my top scans.
Right
Oh,
on.
Rife Machine can do affirmations. Yes.
Good
Oh,
stuff. Karen's got
beautiful,
all the goods.
Karen. We are
Karen's
oh my
coming with
gosh,
it.
yeah. Midwest Night Watchers is hitting us up hard. Here we go. Hi guys.
Yeah.
I'll have to catch the end of your show.
It's so, these are this is a big issue, right? And
Okay,
it's
it
almost
is.
like there's nothing. Hey, Daryl,
Hi, Tanyan. Hi,
Tanyan.
Tanyan.
Um, there's almost like nothing good can come off of
Oh, I know.
sort of like without having conversation. If you for people who are like out there, like, what do you do, right? It's kind of
Uh-huh.
like there's this recurring theme. Well, let's get Aaron. Let me look
He's
at it.
right. Like your image, you're skewed. Your image is
Right.
skewed with what you see yourself versus what others
What
see
we
you.
see
Body
ourselves,
dysmorphic.
obviously, with
Yeah.
filters
Hey, Joe.
and with all these things. And
Yeah.
as usual, the prescription starts with empathy, starts with truth, not
Mhm.
being afraid of telling the truth.
Yes.
I think where the pendulum swung too far, we'll
Mhm.
touch on this, is there is a very real problem, of course, with what I'm talking about, which would be referred to as diet culture.
Uh-huh.
But the pendulum swinging to where we now are running over to fast food culture. Junk food culture is not good because that's marketing culture,
To
right?
go,
There's
yeah,
the dieting
packaged.
it's like fast food gets you set up for the other side of the thing.
Mhm.
right?
The
And the answer is
processing.
neither.
Yeah.
And it's usually being honest.
Yeah.
And so I push back. We've done episodes before, Heidi, on this idea of good food and bad food.
Yeah. Hi, Jane.
And I certainly prescribe the idea that some foods are just simply not as healthy as others.
Mhm.
However, there is nuance. There's room for nuance to talk to children or teens about this. And in the Twinkie example, do you remember the Twinkie
Yes.
example?
Yes.
Right?
And
It's
that's
like
my I just gave that one to my sister.
by
Yeah, that was
by
a good
by
one.
opening it up with nuance, so you give a kid nuance, then they can see the world with nuance,
Uh-huh.
right?
Mhm.
Meaning, if I give the Twinkie example, and for those who are unaware, we've talked a lot about this. Twinkies is saying that in a certain situation, if you were starving, a Twinkie is a life saving
It'll save your life.
item. You
Yeah.
can to a hungry person, a Twinkie can save a life, right?
Yep. Yep.
So that just provides the context. Now, do
Yeah.
you want a diet of Twinkies?
Yeah.
No, because then we know that on that extreme. And this is kind of where I push back, because to just simply try to shelter a child from the idea of good and bad, right? And
Mhm.
then allow that, just to have whatever, because it's all just food. And you're not preventing an eating disorder, guys, by doing that. That's a virtue signal. That
Virtue
is, and
signaling is
that
the
is
one.
a thing that has infected my profession, where it is people that, because the population has become unhealthy, right?
Mhm.
And when you can assuage an unhealthy population with there's no responsibility you have, right? And it sounds so good, right? You let them off the hook. It's not your fault.
Mhm.
It's marketing. It's not your. You move so far to the fact that you actually disempower people.
Mhm.
You actually take it away,
That's what's scary.
because when
Yeah.
you say, like, well, it's not your fault, like, you can't do anything. You're like, I can't,
Yeah.
because that's what the subconscious message is. So we have to remind people that you actually do have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all
Like, you're not
Mhm.
like, oh, if you tell a person that nothing is their fault, well, then they can't. That nothing can be changed.
Yeah, there's a lot of
This is.
yeah, it's a big to do, and I'm glad. Thank you, Karen, for bringing that up because it's super psychological. And when someone even expresses concern, then you're like, oh, they must notice I'm doing something. Right, I'm going to go harder. Like there's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot that happens, but the triggers and the tipping point, I think, crosses generations. So we're talking about social media influences, right? When I was a kid, this started like 15, really, 15, 16. We had magazines. It was just magazines. So
Yeah.
what went from Teen Beat and my crushes, Corey Haim all over my walls, went to supermodels. The supermodel was created. And these women that I would never have, those are not my body types, but they started littering my walls. And it was like this beauty I was striving to get to. So it was I started getting like Shape magazine and then watching
Hmm.
this lady on PBS and doing weights in my mom's room. I was teaching myself kind of like to control calorie in going out, and the psychological games went crazy. And then my trigger point was really, actually, I should start at 14. What got me into this was I was on pom poms. Like I was a sophomore, but I made it on varsity, and we were passing out the skirts, and they kept trying and trying, and I wound up getting the biggest skirt. I was an apple. I had great legs, but I was an apple shaped, and I just was going, huh, like I started comparing,
Hmm.
looking at others and comparing myself just by a number, not by that I could keep up with everybody, that my kick was just as high, like none of it. And it just planted a seed. Then the visuals came in from the magazines.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a thing of control. It felt like it was the only thing I could control. And
Right.
when I was on stage or on performing a lot, I felt this need to control. And then the dating came in. And I'm like, I gotta make out. I better feel good. I'm gonna not eat till prom.
Yeah.
And restrictions. And then it was real short going to DePaul University. I went on the dance team, and my dance friend was Kid Rock's little sister. Hi, Jill Ritchie. And
Richie,
yeah, she's the one on freshman year of college. She goes, just like take it all in and just throw it. Then it doesn't count. And I
literally
was like,
teaching you.
she said, oh,
Literally
because we
teaching.
had to wear head to toe spandex. So I was just like, And my old days were like, "Well, just stop eating." And she's like, "No, no, no, you can have some. Just get rid." And I was like, "Oh." I tried that, and then I went, it took over my entire life. It takes over psychologically your entire life.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the internet to look up the repercussions, the electrolyte imbalance, the heart, the heart is really the
Major
first thing, the
problems.
teeth, which I've dealt with just a couple years ago. So it was a big to do.
Esophagus, you
The
can really put a
esophagus,
damage,
yep,
on that, and
yep.
that's and a very, very,
And then you're sneaking and you're hiding and you're
high risk
manipulating.
of esophageal cancers.
So gnarly, and it was pretty crazy. Yeah, so I mean, so many tales to do. I'll do my own little side bit to just go into length because I do think I really around the holidays I wanted to say something and be like, shout out to all my peeps who are hiding, hiding food, pushing food around, going in the bathroom, trying to run the water so no one can hear you, like all the things. And the plumbing got bad at my parents' house even. They didn't know why.
Mm,
Like it was, and then I met you guys at the end of it, the tail end. I got a part in a movie and I was trying to
interesting.
control it then. And you could see in the movie there was some swelling. Like I
Mhm.
looked different in some scenes. So watching that back was an eye opener for me. And I moved to LA with you and I was on my own. I didn't have these external stressors and I had to be the control was turned into survival. So my
Yeah.
39-cent Burger King hamburgers stayed in. So the long and short of it, my influence was external and planted a seed and it escalated. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's crazy,
we
huh?
live in a pretty crazy world because there's a coming and going effect, the awesome topic, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, when we to go to the point of processed
It's a
foods,
good
right?
one.
When
Processed foods.
if you're up against food, again, this is where the education component comes in because you kinda have to know what your enemy is, right? Like, if you're faced with hyperpalatable food that's hard for you to stop eating, and then you are wondering why you're overeating,
Mhm.
and then you have a bit of shame of thinking that you're overeating because you don't have willpower, but no amount of
Mhm.
willpower in the world can override the food science that these foods have. That's why
Yeah.
it's important, Heidi, to get to my point of this good and bad food. Food certainly exerts an impact that is very real and should be discussed. It's
Mhm.
like we can't just act like, you know, uh, good luck, right? Trying to, for most people, right? It's like you can only eat just one. Like, good luck eating an Oreo, right?
Mhm.
Like, imagine like being like, well, have moderation. What does that even mean? How do you moderate a food that's designed to make you hungry for more of it?
Yep.
So if
It
you don't understand that that's even a thing, you don't even know what you're up against. And then that actually continues the cycle of shame because there are full people. Hey, good job, Joe.
mm,
Congrats. There are people who have actually the ability to turn that switch off, right?
yeah.
Yep. They have that. There are many that don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what happens?
Yeah.
And to not understand that we didn't. A lot of these modern afflictions, it's a product of just like our abundance of food, the messaging behind it, and it's gotten so sophisticated, right? From the food science standpoint and
Mhm.
from the marketing standpoint, it's so sophisticated that you actually almost need to teach people those parts, right? Whereas if you
Yeah.
yeah, right, gluten free. I mean, this is the other thing is magnifying certain aspects of the food like it's fat free. I mean, Heidi and I, we came up in that time period of Snackwell's cookies, right? And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
fat free
My
and
mom
then
had
they
all
just load
that
it up with,
stuff.
like, sugar and then, like, hydrogenated oils and whatever, God knows
Alba
what, and
shakes.
you just
Alba.
kind of and all of these things that, so for me, it's, we move from a great idea as body positivity. I mean, who can argue with that, right? That you should be positive. In the sense, though, it moved into what's called the health at every size movement, which starts becoming a lie
Mm. The
because
healthy size movement,
health
what'd you
at
say?
every size.
Oh, health at every
So
oh, I know, right?
HAES, and
Yeah.
this is the whole point of what I'm getting at with this pendulum swing is that now we're in a place where we're just literally just lying to people.
Exactly.
Like, you're
That's
400
a pretty
pounds and
joke.
you're healthy still.
Mm.
Well
Yeah. And then the media, they
well,
have the
are we?
imagery now. They're having them be the spokespeople and
Right,
stuff. It's like,
and
"Oh,
it
no,
be and
wait."
the vicious cycle that occurs is that then there is a reinforcement and a patting on the back that everything is okay. But then
Mhm.
that pain, you delayed that pain, and at some point, that pain comes, and we're not doing any people any favors by setting them up for some very real pain.
Mhm.
And I can speak as a professional of almost 30 years doing this in closed door sessions with patients. Ultimately, people do come to a place of breaking. It's either gonna be sooner or later with the honesty of where their health is.
Yeah.
This to say somebody like to accurately and objectively describe their health circumstance is very different than shaming, and that's very important. No one should ever be shamed, but the point of being able to educate people is be able to set them up that you then they know that their guard doesn't have to be up because they know that you understand why their behavior is what it is,
Mm.
right?
I'm glad you said
Like
that. Yeah.
having that having that ability to listen to somebody, reflect back what they've said, which is what I do with motivational interviewing and change talk of like listening, reflecting back what they said. So then now they feel comfortable
Mhm.
and then you
They
can
feel
operate
seen.
from there.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get anywhere through avoiding the truth.
Yes.
That's not going to
Yes.
help. I want
Yes.
to bring up this slide real quick or this
Yeah.
information real quick because this is actually
Jack
another
LaLanne.
important
Yeah,
important
yeah, bring
part.
it up. I know Jack LaLanne. I remember Jack LaLanne. And then
Jack
Karen, you brought
LaLanne,
it.
man.
Yeah, Karen brought up a good thing too with this the parasite cleanse. Because to be honest, since 2020, 2021, my major ones, even the alcohol went away, like those addictive behaviors. But shame and guilt is what surrounded the body stuff for me. It was a shame guilt
Oh,
thing
so
that was that
and that's just
cycle.
something that we shouldn't be doing to people in
Mhm.
any sense.
Yeah.
In any sense.
Is it the same one, right?
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah, to just look at how many there are. So this is also just kind of an interesting thing. We won't go too deep into this, but I thought this was worth sharing. There are now 8, 8 distinct eating disorders, and you can see these here: anorexia nervosa. That's the one, a common one many people know about. Severe food restriction, intense fear of weight gain, distorted body image, bulimia nervosa, it's binge eating, right? So
Mhm,
it's eating and purging.
mhm,
Binge eating disorder, recurrent overeating without purging, right?
mhm,
Avoidant and restrictive food intake disorder, so limited food intake due to sensory issues
mm,
or fear. This is not body image
mhm.
related at all. What's called pica. These are very interesting. A lot of these videos make the rounds on social media because it's like people just that can't
Oh,
stop eating like
uh-huh.
paper towels or you see dirt.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, my mom was like that.
they just eat things that
Laundry
just
detergent, like
that aren't
carb.
that aren't food.
Yep.
Rumination disorders a real interesting one. So it's regurgitation of food. It differs from bulimia.
Mhm.
Uh, and actually I have a whole page on that. I'll show you in a sec here. But and then what they call OSFED, OSFED, other specified feeding or eating disorders. So significant eating issues that don't fully fit. Um, and unspecified feeding or diseating orders, eating problems causing distress, but they lack a specific criteria. If we go back in the 70s, there was 2. It was basically you had anorexia and pica, and then bulimia was named in 1979.
Yeah. And
Um,
some mix a couple, because
right.
I'd be a little bit over here, then I do this, then I do that, then I do this. They
If we see these diagnostics have fanned out over the last 50 years to where we've gotten today.
Mhm.
Um, to get into, I just want to touch on rumination real quick,
Mhm.
and we'll close and continue. But rumination, a person's repeatedly regurgitating the food, um, like re-chewing it. So
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's
I
not
was like
vomiting in the typical sense, like from nausea
chewing
or
and
sickness.
spitting out.
Habitual behavior, yeah.
Mhm.
And to be diagnosed, it has to recur regularly, at least several times a week,
Mhm.
um, for a month, and it can't be explained by things like acid reflux or stomach issue. And this can happen at any age. Regurgitation usually starts within a half hour of eating, sometimes sooner. It's unlike bulimia, there's no distress beforehand, so people with rumination actually don't feel nauseated or disgusted. It's not like forced purging,
Mhm.
and it can be voluntary or not. So some people describe it as almost
Mhm.
automatic, and
That's what I
others
was
say that they
thinking,
can
Dora.
control it. There's no
Yeah.
cause. It's a mix of factors again. Behavioral habits could start as a learned response, like a
Mhm.
baby bringing up milk that feels
Mhm.
soothing, and then that sticks around. This is what's
Could
tricky.
Yeah, that's
Psychological triggers.
psychological.
This is huge. Stress and anxiety and trauma, early age trauma in general just can do the most bizarre things to human beings, and so that can manifest
Mhm.
physical sensitivity, overly sensitive gag reflex. I brought this one up because it's got a lot of, you can see this is really tricky.
Yes, very
Um,
tricky. Plus that gag reflex, that could go down into the mouth breathing, tongue-tied.
yes,
Mm.
there
So
does
they
seem to
have
be a
aversions.
developmental link, so it's
Mhm.
more common in people with intellectual disabilities.
Mhm.
It could be tied to sensory self-soothing patterns. So it's not about body image or weight, it's more about the act itself, right?
Mhm.
So symptoms,
It was
weight
the act of
loss, bad
yeah.
breath, tooth decay from the stomach acid. Again, these overlap with some of the others we mentioned.
Mhm.
Behavioral cues, people might cover their mouth, cough, leaving the table. Children might be a little bit irritable and fussy, isolation. So again, how it differs, very important. Bulimia involves intentional purging after binge. It's
Mhm.
often driven by shame, body image. Rumination isn't tied
It's
to
like a
overeating usually.
rush. Mhm.
It's more mechanical.
Mhm.
Acid reflux is a medical issue, right? Ruminations is behavioral. Um, Vomiting is forceful and distressing, but rumination is almost calmer, almost routine, right? So then doctors can look at this. Uh, they have questionnaires for these. We can close this up, but
Okay.
the point of all this is that you can see how complicated it can get.
So complicated.
Um,
And solutions, yes, Karen, you're hitting all the
yeah,
solutions.
yeah,
I think it's
um,
getting into the mental place of understanding the yeah,
yeah.
getting
There
dealing with
are,
shame and guilt. Mhm.
yeah. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there are certainly times where I believe, like if you have like things like parasites, where they sort of speak on our behalf, right? They're we're eating to support them.
And yes, Dara.
When you're,
Dara, like, right? Like, that's
yeah.
mhm,
And there is such an interesting and intimate connection between the gut and the brain and that's also important to tease out. And so part of what I can do is a lot of times with, like, if it's a physical thing, if we're getting symptoms, if we're getting gas, bloating, or nocturnal problems, like around midnight, that's morning for a lot of parasites, right? That's when they kind of wake up and stretch their arms. So kind of waking up at midnight or feeling uncomfortable during the late night hours.
mhm,
So there's certain things that can be identified. Everybody has parasites. Everybody's got, and we all have things like candida. It's just to varying degrees. There's
mhm,
no you can't avoid, but you can certainly do things to mitigate that. A lot of parasite cleanses are pretty harsh and strong, so you got to like dose correctly.
mhm.
Um, you know, especially with the herbs because they can be tough.
Yeah.
But a certain medication that was used during the pandemic is also really good.
Oh, yes. That one. That one.
Yes.
Nice, Karen. Good Ka
Um,
nice, Karen, and hello, folks. Nice to see you there.
I
Um,
think I'm seeing some of the comments that are coming in, but I'm missing others.
oh,
I
that
think,
no,
Heidi,
those
I think you got your eye on more of these, but
I Well, thank you for at least covering that because, I mean, it's, super in depth. It deserves its own big
right,
thing, but
which is
I
why I
wanted
turn it over to professionals when these things really
yeah.
come to me. I
But you cover some amazing things, like, that's the tipping points, that's the long and short of it, really. As far as there's the mental health, the what that trauma that's involved, and then these after effects are ongoing. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
I think
big to
our
do.
susceptibility, I think that, we are only as susceptible as we are, kind of our knowledge set and our base, you know, um, because like I said, if once you're aware, once you can kind of see behind the curtain and know the forces that be as far as food supply, what food does to your body, when you
Mhm.
really can kind of teach someone these things, then they're a little more forearmed. So things like
Mhm.
social media trends and these things, they can pick it up. I mean, I think one area of thank you, Joe. I think one area where we lack with education that's going to be needed is
Mhm.
almost like a course in critical thinking and identification. I mean, these are things we can take voluntarily at a college level,
Mhm.
but I feel like around age 8, 9, 10, these are ideas that you can absolutely teach of how to interpret advertising, marketing, pick that apart. You can teach this.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree, and I agree getting to the root. Like, I love working within a community where the home base, it's homemade food, it's working together, it's knowing where your food comes from, and we really are like, how did that make you feel? Learning the cause and effect of taking certain foods. So when it comes to the point of being confronted with maybe this, you know, the devil on the shoulder, man, it was a difficult time, but you
sure.
would actually have the foundation and you would actually have the roots there to understand, no, that's going to not serve my body whatsoever. And that's what was lacking, I think, for myself, for some other people. It's like the repercussions weren't even, you didn't even think about that.
Right.
It was an immediate result. Whereas our children today, we're teaching them the foundational roots of health so that hopefully they don't, when they go down these roads, they can self correct quickly or get the help they need right away. One of those kinds of things. Hi,
Yeah.
Latchkey
I mean,
Hustle.
what a sense of proportionality is really important because, there's this idea that, if oregano oil is amazing. Like,
I love that's
oh,
our
if
yes.
I eat this, then that food means this. And it's like, but when you actually have a sense of proportionality about, well, what does that actually mean? Meaning,
Mhm.
what are we actually talking about right now? Let's just get real. Like, okay, was it 300 calories for a slice of pizza? And like, you need like
Mhm.
2,200 a day. I think you can be fine, right? Like, just like, we're in such a place where it's like there's such a divide in all aspects. There's a divide in education. There's a divide in philosophical divide.
Mhm.
But all of this stuff, it's not a one or another. There is room to just sort of bring it all into the conversation.
Mhm.
And if you do it in a way where, again, always stressing low pressure environments, like
Mhm.
in other words, food shouldn't be a high pressure discussion at tables. There shouldn't be like, well, why are you eating that? What are you doing? Like, it's during
Yeah.
mealtime. We've talked about this over and over and over again,
Yeah.
Heidi, about how family mealtime should just be completely relaxed.
Yeah.
And as a parent's job is just to bring the appropriate food into the home, but the children should be able to choose from those foods. We've talked
Mhm.
about that. It's your job to decide, but they can choose within that. And if
Mhm.
there's a night where they don't want to eat what you got, I mean,
Mhm.
you have to support that autonomy. It's like, well,
It's
okay,
tough.
it's
Yeah, but you
tough
gotta do it. I mean,
because
that's
the
yeah.
clean your plate and the force this and the force that, and then leading to this feeling of like I am like disconnected from my parents here, and I'm gonna now hide. And once you get into secrecy,
Oh,
you've become
you're another
isolated now,
person, and you
right? You're
and your
another
altar
person,
comes out. Yeah.
and
Secrecy is big with it.
that
Mhm.
dark
Yep.
persona, the devil on the shoulder has a
Yep.
louder
Takes
voice
over.
and
Mhm.
takes over,
And
and
then the guilt and
so
shame follows.
the
Mhm.
guilt and shame follows. So
Yeah.
open lines of communication, low pressure environments.
Mhm.
This all
Not
matters.
to be afraid of it. I tell you though, Lawrence, like what maybe 25 years ago I started nipping this in the bud, but I still today have moments of gratitude like when I'm out. I'm like the beast is gone. I
Mhm.
can enjoy it and be done and feel full or have the like not count the calories. Enjoy it. It's like wow, 10 over a decade of my life was just I was in
We've
a
only had to
yeah.
get into calorie counting because of the food we've created. This is so important for
Mhm.
people to know. If you feed a human being, the human animal, unprocessed whole foods, single ingredient, as we say, like, meals. I don't mean eating one ingredient, but I mean, a meal composed of separate single whole food ingredients. You can feed human beings like that, and things like body weight and body composition will naturally
Thank
course
you. It
correct.
yes,
It
I got the
so
body I dreamed of when I stopped
we're
controlling
only
it.
in this madness of calorie counting because of this food supply that almost ensures that we're gonna eat beyond our needs.
Mhm, mhm.
It's literally designed to do that. This is cannot be overstated because 67% of our food is ultra processed. So this is 2/3 of what we're talking about right now.
Mhm,
If you
mhm,
can't address that, it's the elephant in the room.
mhm. Elephant in the room. Speaking of, maybe we should tap into some current events. I'm just kidding. That's
Uh-oh. Yeah, well,
elephants
we
in the room.
can. I mean, if there's anything out there,
Oh gosh.
I'm all for
And Karen, yes,
let's
you've
get
been on
right at
fire
it.
there. I've seen
Tops recovery
a
centers
theme,
use clean
of
and green.
teaching early and teaching young, getting
Clean
rid of
clean
that
and green.
beast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start with veg is best. Food is frequency, not calories, and outside concepts are as proteins. And what?
Food
Outdate
I've always said
concepts.
is, it's information.
Uh-huh.
It's
It's
information.
energy,
You
and it
you you
should be a
take it in
part
and
of that your
it's
life, not run your life, not control your life.
it's
So
it's
becoming a
it's
mother
information.
made me extra cognizant, and then having these conversations with you, what, almost 3 years now, has been just wonderful. And as an educator now, conscious educator, because I called my sister out when she was visiting. She didn't even know she was doing it. Oh my god, oh my god. I'm like, "Hey, enjoy it." It's like the guilt came in and my
Mhm.
kids are watching. I'm like, "Enjoy it. When are you going to be on Sunset Boulevard eating these fries again?" Like this is amazing. Sunset Strip. Like
Yeah.
it was like, check yourself, cuz the others are watching too. It's programming. So we're changing the generations, I think. I think it's old here, old school. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts with that. I was curious about that. We didn't tap into that. I think I shared with you some, and then even when we moved here, remember, I was like speed walking those Encino Hills, and I had to burn, 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 actress, audition, burn, burn, but survival mode. 8 blocks
Yeah.
of cheese and wine. So it was a really interesting time, but I like to proudly say I fought the beast and I won. um, yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
Karen. Thank you for that. Well, shoot. Well, I don't know how you pivot out of that one. I want to lighten the mode a little bit though, but
Well, I'd say is that,
crypto.
we Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, where do we go from here? Well, look, we're about 40 minutes in.
Uh,
Um, yeah, to just kind of to close this up, it's that it's a big problem out there. I'm just gonna button it up and we'll figure out how to pivot.
yeah, yeah.
But
Put it in a bow.
it's a big
Oh, not
problem,
time, Bobo. Come back.
and it is something that if you suspect, then professionals are needed. Don't willy nilly it. I think social media. Uh, there's counter strikes out there. There's social media has it all, right? So you can't. The platform is the platform, but the messages, good messages, can be anywhere. So, I'm blaming social media per se, but the virality is just kind of wild. And I don't know another answer other than the only way through is just to tell the truth, to talk about these things honestly, as a family, among people that are close to you, just to lay it out there,
Hmm.
discuss things truthfully and neutrally, and not from any you know we should be talking about facts in life with a sense of calm. But things are
Hmm.
just these are what they are, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think things like the Twinkie example, it allows there to be like a place of like, okay, there are times for these things, but let's put this in perspective. And then that allows her to just open up the door to nuance. I think
Yeah.
that's really the only thing that we can do right now. I mean, trying to clamp down, it's like you're trying to play whack-a-mole with all these different fires that pop up in our children's lives and all these influences. But they feel like a sense of connection and communication with you. That's where it has to
They're
start.
going to
Once they get
navigate things well.
isolated, once
Yeah.
people get
Yes. Thank
isolated
you for
into
saying
their
that.
into
Yes.
their little bubble,
Yeah.
that's hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
penetrate through and to really
Yeah.
know, because then deception kicks in. And so,
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
end
Totally.
rant.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm so grateful
Current
you said that.
events.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. So I think the biggest topic, and to kind of relate it to health, I see food as a security issue. Obviously, we're in a time right now where global security, war is being talked about. We got all this going on. And I was actually talking to my girlfriend earlier today about food and how it relates to national security. And I think we could just kind of touch on that real quick as far as current events. Um, the farm fires, the factory fires, right?
Yeah.
The culling of chickens, what has been going on these last few years. It's
Oops.
affecting more than our food.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. Taking pictures. I talked about that. Yeah, it's kind of digressing here, but
Oh,
I saw that pop up on the bottom.
oh, sorry.
Um, I don't know. I will say I have read a lot of studies about these are teen girls that when they're scrolling a lot of pictures, when they're scrolling a lot of pictures of food online, it doesn't go well.
It doesn't go well. Yeah.
It doesn't go well. So I don't know what the answer is. That you can't tell someone to
Yeah.
not post like I don't
I
know.
know.
I don't
Again.
again it's like but if a 15-year-old could understand that,
Mhm.
that's the start, right? How many
Mhm.
15-year-olds know that what they're scrolling is doing something to them?
Mhm.
This is
And
the
that's the
point. It's like
communication at home.
we have to trust that the truth matters in some sense. It's like, yeah, when you're telling them that in the moment, they're gonna roll their eyes and walk away, but now they know.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you
Communication at home.
if
Yeah.
someone's doing something it's like and from a place of support, like, "I'm looking out for you," these things
Yeah.
can be dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
I'm sorry I
you know?
pivoted you there.
No,
So
that's okay.
okay.
That's okay, but to go back to
Mm.
food security, this is really important, we'll finish with this, is that when we have a food supply that has been hijacked by biotech, by crops, right? Corn, soy, wheat, sugar, um, genetically modified. When certain nefarious actors are buying up farmland, food becomes a national security issue. 77% of military applicants are ineligible because of their health. Like, so
Wait.
as a country,
Mhm.
yes, almost 80%
Oh, jeez.
are ineligible
Jeez. Well, I didn't know
for
that
health
number was so high.
reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
have it on my Instagram
Yeah.
page. It's a
Okay.
post that I did a long time ago. So it's a very real problem when you have not only food that's making the population unhealthy, you have, military personnel affected.
Mhm.
Overall morale, though, is because that's the physical side, but the way that poor food affects mental health. Like, you
Mhm.
see these combination of factors is devastating.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm. And
really like
they can rickroll and everything
we
else.
just turn
Yeah.
into a country that is vulnerable for the taking. We're psychologically vulnerable. We're vulnerable to propaganda, brainwashing. We're vulnerable. The food makes us, the water,
Mhm.
fluoride, knocking
Mhm.
IQ points off. This is documented stuff.
Mhm.
So what I said before, it's Heidi, as far as what's going on with the current administration, is like I will feel good once I start seeing things happen at the agriculture level
Mm. Mhm.
because
With the
that's where it
soil
has to
and
start.
stuff.
It has to
That's where it
start.
has to start. Agreed. I'm right there with you. And yep.
If we don't do that, our national security is at risk,
Yep.
and our economic security. I mean, everything goes. We spend
Yeah.
more
There's
money
the
on healthcare than any country in the world. And it's
Oh gosh.
pathetic. It's
I have to ask you a
pathetic.
question about something I saw too. I think did you forward it to me? First, I have to say shout out, hi Chrissy. Chris is my mom pal who is like, I love his delivery. And her daughter, I've shared the picture. I speaking of this, Daryl, I did take a picture of a student's meal and they brought me a snack size too because she has the rainbow. She has
Yeah,
she eats all her colors. And how can you not take a gorgeous picture of that? So
yeah.
I
Yeah, I mean, it's
absolutely
like,
took a
what's the
picture of
picture
that.
of, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
and
what
and how
depending
are
on
we
the
presenting it?
picture,
What's the
how it
message and what
presents.
is,
My
what
message
are
was, "Look at what these children are eating. I'm hopeful. Like, this feels good. This is great."
yeah.
But that speaking of healthcare, did you see that video or did you send it to me with the man on the phone with the
Yeah.
about covering his ambulance
Yeah, it
bill?
was AB 716, a law that it specifically speaks on ambulance, visits,
Uh-huh.
and, this gentleman, his daughter was in a health emergency, ambulance came, they billed him, uh, X amount of money. uh, and then when he gave them his insurance information, his bill went up. And his California law basically is where you you
So bad.
qualify for the discount if you don't have insurance. So he was
That's
saying
just
on
so
the
weird.
call,
Yeah.
uh, saying, "Well, can you just act like I don't have insurance and give me the discount?" And the call is comical. If it
It
wasn't
is.
true, I
He's
mean, it
like,
almost seems like
"Well."
satire, but it was true. So this is kind of where we're at, where we have these absurd laws, and it was meant to protect people from surprise bills, right? So a surprise on uninsured, like you get an ambulance, and look, there's some truth
Expensive, yeah.
what it is, but that's a whole other story of why it even got to that place. But you would be hit with like this crazy, $3,000 bill for getting picked up by the ambulance.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
now when you have these situations, and you can get into other things, the in and network and out of network, shit is so complicated. But in this guy's situation, he, he ended up paying like double, and he has insurance. And he's like, I play
That's
by the
great.
rules.
Uh-huh.
I'm covered. I have insurance. I'm paying more. It would have been just better. And it finally concluded, the calling concluded where he's like, so it would have just been better for me to not have
Not to have
insurance, and
insurance.
this would have been cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, the guy was kind of like, yeah,
So backwards, so messed
it's very
up.
backwards.
The whole system. Will that change? Do you think this admin, I mean,
I
is
don't
all
know.
that stuff gonna
So many
change?
of these, it always goes back to where the road to hell is paved with the best intentions, because so many of these laws that are designed to do something backfire in the most spectacular ways, where the unintended consequences thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of things just make sense on face value, but then when you have to look at human behavior as a very realistic thing, we talk about the cell phone, right? So worth bringing up these kind of laws. It's like when they have cell phone laws that require you to, uh, you can't check your cell phone when you're driving, right? Which makes sense. Like, don't do it. But what people were doing, instead of checking their cell phone high where they can look out their window, they're hiding it from the cops and putting the phone down and then looking down. And they tracked this. The first place I think in the country, or where they started tracking it, was in Texas, and accidents went up. Accidents went up.
Oh, wait, accidents went, oh,
Accidents went up
okay.
because people were looking down at their phone, trying to hide it from the cops.
Oh, jeez, that's right.
So it's like, but the point isn't to tell anybody to be on your
Of
phone while you're
course.
driving. It's stupid. But
Entertainment
this is
purposes only. Where's
But these
Blazer?
are just these are the kind of examples of, like, the unintended consequences of trying to, like, tighten the screw on people.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just end up in these weird things
Look
where,
how
like,
come.
now people are doing the same behavior in a less safe manner.
Yes. Yes. It's
Like,
so hi hello
that
from
just this
Chile.
this just happens.
Isn't that? Here's your buddy. Hi, Latchkey. How are you? Uh, Speaking of
Latchkey hustling.
agriculture, how to reverse the presence and impact of
The
Monsanto and others
quickest
like
so
them.
Monsanto and others like them, that's a good point, and this is where I feel somewhat encouraged about what might happen. The way that you break a company like Monsanto, if you think about the way that they operate, they lobby to get federal regulations put in place, meaning if they can hit Washington, D.C. hard enough, they can legislate their monopoly into power. Because remember, the government is monopoly. Corporations are extensions of that. Really, the United States government is a fiction, corporate fiction anyway. That's a whole other story, right? We're a corporation.
Mhm.
And if you're a corporation like Monsanto, instead of having to just sort of be the best business, right? Right. And create your own natural monopoly. Like, I'm all for natural monopolies, meaning I'm just the best,
Mm.
right? Like, if you're just the best and everybody wants your product and you become a monopoly because you just do it better, then that's fine. But that's not what they do.
Yeah.
They get legislation. Now, the way you break them up is you cut that off, and then by sending things back to the states, it's a little easier, because then now they have to splinter into 50 different lobby campaigns, and you're going to have a harder time, right? You break their control on federal land. I mean, there's a lot of legalities to it, though. There's things under contract and all that, but that's one way, is that you change the situation at the federal level so that they can no longer have sweeping legislation on what they want to do moving forward. And you just
Mhm.
sue the shit out of them. You just keep
And
suing
then
the
that.
shit out of them. I mean,
Yeah.
they lose, they keep losing, but they've made so much money that they can cover it with their legal fees with lawyers.
Mhm.
But Monsanto's evil. I mean, don't
Mhm.
get it twisted. What they've done, some of you are probably already aware, is like they have they had a situation where they'll just throw contraband on the side of a road, and then winds will blow in um, their seeds into farmers' lands, and then they show up
Take over.
later and catch them and take over the land.
Yeah.
And you got cases where you see family farms, rallying their kids around and saying, "Okay, guys, we have to like be on lookout of our corn crops. If they start looking this way, that means there's genetically modified seed on our farmland. We can get in trouble." Imagine that,
Isn't that insane?
for stealing
Mhm.
their patented seed. They
Mm.
can show up and claim that you stole it, and it had nothing, it just blew into your field and started spontaneously growing, and now you're
It's
penalized.
so
That's how
jacked.
evil this company is.
Yeah.
That's
No,
insane.
they're beyond. My question to you is, let's say they're wiped off, it's all exposed, they're clear them all out. How long to regenerate the land,
It's
do
gonna
you
take
think?
decades.
Ugh,
Yeah. This
this is long
none of this is
term.
fixed. It has
Yeah.
to start now. It has to start somewhere.
Mhm.
Topsoil regeneration, I mean, and there's some things that are just, sadly, I think maybe never really quite right again, but there are huge opportunities with regenerative agriculture but this is a decades project.
Mhm.
This time period will be looked back at as hopefully somewhat of a beginning of an interesting age of our history, potentially a golden age where it was a fork in the road kind of thing.
Mhm.
um, and the farmland was reclaimed, and we were able to restore the health through that. That's fundamental. That has to happen. It all starts there. It
Mhm.
all starts there.
Mhm.
Animal welfare, all these things matter. Um, it's unfortunate though we can't. And the thing is, Heidi, to the quicker point is, even if we wanted to, we couldn't, because it's not set up to be able to bear that output. In other words, like if everybody wanted organic, whatever, what have you, if everybody wanted to start eating grass-fed beef or drinking organic milk or
Oh,
raw,
you're saying there's
if
not
you
enough
can't, we don't
people
have
that want
enough.
it?
Like it's just,
No, it's not
if
tipping point
everybody
yet,
just
right?
tomorrow decided it's just not enough. It's like if
Yeah.
everybody started to go to their gym during their January in their gym membership, the gym wouldn't even be able to, like
Yeah. I hear what you're
everybody that
saying.
has a gym membership, if everybody went, you wouldn't be able to move in the gym,
Yeah.
right? But human behavior
So
dictates that probably 15% of people are going to go, and 85% are just paying a bill every month for something they don't use.
they just oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So it's I think as the healthcare systems and all these little transitions happen and it traces back to food, perhaps more people would be on board with we need to clean up our food. But we do need more people choosing
I think
better.
the most that I'm excited about now is that things are being talked about in a way that they haven't been talked about
Yeah, that's
in
always a
questions.
positive thing. And Joe, I'm happy to hear that. He only watches me when he's at work, not driving. So he's not down looking at
All
his
right,
phone.
yeah, don't be looking down.
Thanks, Carol, for
I mean,
tickling
now
all those.
look at cars now. They have gigantic TV screens right in your. I mean, it's just
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know.
but
You can tell.
the
Yes.
cars will be
Yes.
driving
Oh
us around
gosh, the
anyway. In
screens.
10 years, the cars will be self-driving anyway. So
I hope not.
you can hope all you want. Hey, that's where it's
I
going.
know
I mean,
it's
all
gonna
these
be.
things like
How
I've
about
just
you buy
learned.
an old school?
You know me. I didn't have a cell phone, guys, until I
That's
was
right.
31 years old.
That's right.
So I'm totally the person that's like resistant, but then I always end up finding out that it doesn't matter. It's gonna go
Yeah.
the way it's gonna go.
And we lost a friend that they didn't know had happened, but it just so happened he was on his phone all the time and he had that tumor right here. Do you remember from the cause? Do
Wh-
you remember
Which
cause? Maybe that's more Jen White's world. An old film buddy in
who
Chicago.
was it? Can you remind?
Cause Ryan. I can text you. I don't
Okay,
know if I should.
I kind of.
But anyway, the tumor in the shape of a cell phone right here, and he was like that lived on his phone, and it was 2001 or two,
Mhm.
and anyway, just saying, all I would just love that full disclosure. I know everyone's waiting for Epstein lists and things, but there are so many things that we need all the papers for
there's a bigger
our
underbelly
health. Hmm.
of problems that people
Yeah.
realize. There's a lot of front-facing public spectacle stuff, and then there's just like a whole like
Okay.
nasty network of
Yeah.
it's gotten deeply tentacled. I mean, you can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, Bo is under here, so I think our time's almost
we're
up.
here. Bo shows
Let
up
me see.
at right on the hour.
Yeah. He came a little early. I'm like, you're too early. Come back. So he came back. Come on. I don't want you to hit your back. Here, watch out. Anyway, well, so if you did tune in the middle and you're like, what the heck? Um, Rainbow Chefs Academy and Lawrence notified me that it was the end of eating disorder awareness week. So I
Yep.
was like, hey, I was texting him. I go, can we talk a little bit about that Sunday? Because I'd like to share a little
Yep.
story. So thank you for diving into that.
Yeah.
And I do want to remind, especially for new listeners right now, you'll see a playlist under my YouTube as well as on Rumble. It has its own, but the Kids Health series with Lawrence, it's over 2 years of this, but it's a lot of information. Like he will pick just a topic like mouth breathing, and it's a whole episode on mouth breathing with data and details in the works. So thank you to the
Don't
new
mouth
pals.
breathe though, in case anybody thought that that show was about just don't.
To mouth breathe, yeah.
You
The
know, it's not,
repercussions of it and what that
yes,
leads to. And then,
don't be a
goes
mouth
down to
breather.
dental and I mean all any subjects you could I mean a lot of subjects you can think of. And again, it's for the whole family. And so yeah, it's the Kids Health series. And then we've been kicking this off several weeks now. And it's just kind of like a general go with the flow talk with the community. So I'm really grateful to see some new faces. Hello from Chile. I see you out there. I don't know if I said that
So
already.
cool how these people
Um,
from everywhere.
yeah, that's really sweet. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming on over. And Latchkey and Bigfoot Dwarf, I'll send you over that to that one, Lawrence. They were just on Midwest Night Watchers, so I'm going to go finish that replay. Great show. So love having you guys here. Thank you for that. Thank you for the support. Yeah, Lawrence, thank you so much. I feel like we're going to have a little bit of a week. I think you were right with that spring vibe. They're trying to drop us in temp again. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to let you know how the kids are navigating this energy, and we'll see what else transpires.
Happy New Year.
BA, any closing remarks?
Be good to
Oh,
each other.
Pancho, look at that. Thanks, but oh, did you change
Oh,
your name
yes, the
back?
sexy people only. No, just, be good to each other, pay attention. And that's it, listen with the intent to understand.
Yes, thank you. Oh, yeah, super quick. I have to tell you something super quick, you guys. Whoever's there, just hang on one sec. Barbershop. Carol and Jane know I was at the barbershop the other day with my son. Anyway, I'm overhearing this conversation between the loud barber and the customers, and it's about the Max with the babies. And her
Mm,
son was about to have a baby. And she was basically saying, yeah, my son's been saying, I don't know, I'm reading a lot of stuff. I don't want to start right away. But he made his mom get one. He goes, you need to have one before you come touch. So I'm listening. My son's like, hang on. Like he was like the Jedi. He's like, not yet, mom, almost there. And I'm like, there'll be the right time for me to chime in. So anyway, it was going a lot. And the families are like, but you're going to do it, right? Oh, that baby, maybe he doesn't know. They should do it. Like it was a lot. So anyway, after we're done and I'm checking out, that woman was my checkout lady, gave her a nice little tip. And then I was just like, I leaned in quietly because I didn't want to agitate customers. And I wasn't there to create any trouble. I just said, listen, I heard your concern for your new grandchild. And I want to say kudos to your son for researching a little bit. And I had almost lost my daughter in my own arms. So I perked up when I heard that. And just my 2 cents, as long as they can with their natural immunity, let it grow. And for you, I go, you're fine. You look at you fit as a fiddle on your feet. You can detox your heavy metals because she was saying how much pain she's in and bruised. She got a DTAP
mm.
to go see the baby. I go, there's also a thing called shedding. So if the baby comes soon, you might want to wait. Like I gave a little bit of a download without fear, but she was so doe-eyed. She goes, really? She goes, my instinct was saying something's wrong here. And so we just had a quick little exchange personally. And it was a near hug goodbye, like of gratitude. And I'm like, I'm glad I spoke up. I just shared my story. So yeah, I wanted to share that we're out there out in the 3D kind of planting our seeds, but sharing our human experience of what we've gone through in hopes that others don't have to go through anything
Yeah.
dramatic and traumatic as well. So, yeah. How was that? Did I did I
I
share that enough and
I
well?
got it, yeah. Downloaded and received.
And received. Okay, mouth breathing. Joe, I have to send you those then. It's on the playlist of the Kids Health series on Rumble, and my right under my YouTube, you see my playlist section.
Yeah.
And most
That's
of my
actually a really good episode.
it's a really good episode.
We
Oh,
got some good
TKB, how are
information.
you? Nice to see you. We were just logging out here. I just want to say hello to these peeps and then we'll drip out. Um, Oh, you guys are awesome. Thanks for the positive vibes and all. So, yeah, so I say you'll know when the time is right, but speak up. And we can do it kindly. I was nothing but kind and I let her be heard too. And it's the listening, like you say, Lawrence. We're always listening to one another. So, yeah, there you go. That's my care share. Ding. Thanks, Lawrence. We'll
You're
see you next
welcome.
week. We'll see you next
See
week.
you next week. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Spring's coming. Spring's a coming.